What's up, guys? This is Pi with srlounge.com, and I'm here with Gene Higa.
Hi, everyone.
Gene, thanks for coming out. For those of you guys that don't know Gene, I actually have to do his introduction. This guy's so humble. If you ever met him on the street, you wouldn't know everything that he's done. But anyway, Gene is an incredible wedding photographer. He does a ton of destination work, and his work's been featured basically everywhere. So today we're going to do a little talking shop.
Absolutely. I'm an open book, so ask away.
All right. So let's just start right out.
Okay.
Gene, have you always been into photography? I mean, what was the point basically in your life when you said, I want to be a professional photographer? Were you doing something else at the time?
I've always had an interest in art, I should say. But I wasn't always a photographer. I actually found photography pretty late in my life. Not that I'm like super old, but like, a little later on, and I was just trying to find my path, going to school, taking classes, and I took photography as a prerequisite. And I actually took it as advice from my mom. My mom said,
Really?
Yeah, she's like, why don't you take a photography class? And I was like, okay. And
That's
I took
so
the
unusual.
class, and I have my mom to thank,
Well, okay, but this is unusual. I say it's unusual because this. I'm Asian as well. I'm Persian, which Persian, by the way, is considered Asian. Okay.
Absolutely.
So I grew up in an Asian family, and art was like one of those things where you did art until high school, and then it was, all right, let's get serious with life now.
Let's get you into
You're going to be
medical
either
school,
engineer, doctor. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
So I kind of compromised with my dad on doing the business thing, but that's amazing that your mom actually coached you into photography.
My parents, my aunt is a amazing artist, but my parents have always kind of let me figure out my own path.
Yeah.
And they really never pushed me into what they wanted. They kind of said, you know what, okay, this is what you want to do. Go make your mistakes. Go figure it out. And if that's what you want to do, we're going to support it.
That's awesome.
That's
really
so
great.
I'm very, very fortunate to have a super supportive family that just kind of lets me do my thing.
Yeah. Well, so when you were studying photography, were you enrolled in some other major at the time, or was that just...
Yeah, I was actually...
you were doing art history at the time.
I was doing art history, yeah.
That's right.
So, I thought maybe I could sell art in Europe. I thought that would be a pretty cool job. I was really obsessed with like the Renaissance era, and I really loved all that stuff. So I took a lot of those classes. But photography was kind of a mistake. And
I feel you on that. That's where we ended up too. It was definitely
I'm sure
unplanned.
a lot of photographers out there, had it as a hobby.
Yeah.
And it's become this thing that's kind of taken over our lives, right?
Yeah. Well, at what point did you decide like this is? Were you in school when you just like dove in head first? When you, what point did you decide this is what you wanted to do?
I was taking a lot of photography courses at the time. I was actually doing a bunch of things. I was taking photography courses. I was working in a photo lab. I ran their pro department. I worked at a gas station. I bussed tables. I helped the photographer on the weekends carry his bags. The guy who I was helping on the weekend was actually my photography teacher in the school.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, he's what was happening was we had this critique one day. So we had all of our photos on the wall, and I had went out and photographed all of my friends. I had a buddy who loved to drink in this place called the Red Room, so I would photograph him out there.
Yeah.
I had a friend who was in a band, so I photographed her in a band. So I had all these portraits of all my friends, and I put them all up. And the class, I got really good reviews from the class, and everyone liked it. And my teacher pulled me out and said, Gene, you have an eye. You should do something with it. And I was like, oh, that's cool. What should I do with it? And I thought, I don't know, maybe I should take portraits. He says, well, I'm a wedding photographer. Why don't you come with me, carry my bag, see if you like it. And I carried his bags that one day.
See if you like carrying his bags.
See if I like carrying your bags, right? But I went to this wedding and I thought, damn, I get food, bridesmaids, party.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool. And he gave me $150. I thought, man, that's a lot of cash.
Yeah.
So I was like, let me do this with you all year. So I went with him for that whole year. And
that's awesome.
The girl I was seeing at the time, her girlfriend was getting married.
Yeah.
And she said, Gene, I know you like photography. I know you're kind of around weddings. Why don't you come shoot my wedding? I was like, okay, that's pretty cool, right? And I had a Hasselblad at the time, and I had a 120 back. I had an 80 millimeter lens, and I had a couple other lenses. So I went out there and shot this wedding. And I remember when I was in school that we could go to coffee houses, and there would be different artists on the walls.
Mm-hmm.
So I took 20 photos that I loved from the wedding, and I printed them at the lab at night, and I matted them at school, and then I bought some cheapy frames, and then I started calling around coffee houses to see if I could hang these wedding photos around.
Oh, wow.
But the coffee houses that I called were in very affluent areas.
Yeah.
So in the Bay Area, it was places like Palo Alto, Atherton, very prestigious areas. So, like, if you gave me a call for a wedding, I'm like, yeah, Pi, meet me at the corner of blah, 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 blah. So we would be in here, and you would be like, oh, look at all these wedding photos. I'd be like, yeah, those are mine.
This is one of the best, like, startup marketing systems I've ever heard, dude.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I've never heard anything like this. This is incredible.
You'll do wonders when you're desperate for work, you know what I mean? But I would put all these photos up, but then I had these like little 4x6 cards.
Yeah.
And I put all my packages on there. I had a $9.95, a $12.95, and a $15.95.
Yeah.
Like that first year, I sold it like hotcakes. Like I sold that $15.95 like hotcakes because it was like unlimited hours, unlimited film, like all this stuff. And I just sold a bunch of it, and I just started working.
Yeah.
And I got super lucky. And I mean, seriously, like from that point on, I've just been booking, like crazy. Well, I shouldn't say like crazy, but I've been fortunate enough to have a good amount of clientele that has helped me out, move from year to year.
No, you've done very, very well, and it's an amazing start, But what I see a commonality in that, which is basically with all these photographers, with every photographer that has kind of worked their way up, and they've made something of themselves in photography, they're starting out is very, very humble. Not to mention their first year, I'll guarantee that with that pricing and with what you're giving out, your first year had to have been brutal.
Brutal.
It was, just working nonstop.
Nonstop, not making anything.
Yeah.
But
that's
not
what it
making
takes,
anything but a reputation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's all I really wanted.
Yeah.
I wanted to have a buzz. I wanted a reputation. I wanted to get my name out there. But most of all, I wanted the images.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you need to develop the portfolio. You need to get comfortable being able to shoot moments that are so finite that could be gone in a second.
Absolutely.
And just get comfortable
and
in that
being
moment.
in a space, and getting people to actually trust me.
Yeah. One of the things that we found very common with a lot of people that we meet that say that they want to do photography is that, and it's kind of sad, it's just they enjoy photography and they think that it's a passion of theirs. They truly believe that until they come out and actually work with us.
Oh.
They've come out and worked with us, and we show them what it's like to actually
it's
shoot.
actually work.
And it's actually work. It's actually, not only is there a lot of stress and pressure involved, but it's very physically demanding. I refer to us as artistic construction workers. That's how I feel. Is like at the end of the day, I feel like I've literally been out working all day long. Like you're
totally feels like that.
But your first year has to be that way to be able to really jump in and get a good foothold.
Well, the thing is I remember getting that like first $300 retainer.
Yeah.
Like jumping for joy and be like, oh my God, they actually hired me.
Wait, they actually put money in my hands.
Yeah, like I got this $300 check, Like, the Xerox copy of that check still hangs on my desk, but it's like,
that's
oh
awesome.
My God, dude, I still I got hired to do this.
Yeah.
But I totally understand about like it being a job.
Yeah.
And there's kind of that fine line where you kind of get to be the artist. But sometimes I kind of pinch myself and I look around and I see this beautiful wedding and I'm like, oh my God, these people, or I see pictures of myself like photographing a wedding. I'm like, oh my God, that couple actually trusts that little dude to take these pictures, It's kind of amazing. Like they're really attractive, beautiful gowns, and I'm like this little guy.
They hired me.
And they're like, oh, that's pretty funny,
No, it is definitely, for those that enjoy people, you enjoy being around things, you enjoy capturing with an artistic eye, and you enjoy working, it's the best job I've ever had.
That was the biggest hump, getting to be trusted by people and getting to be in that space.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, that's really awesome. And you started out basically up in SF, right? You were.
I started in Santa Cruz, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Very cool. And then recently you moved down to SoCal. So how was that transition for you?
The transition was actually a lot more difficult than I expected. But I kind of had, I had my tricks.
Yeah.
So I just kind of
coffee shop tricks. I'm sure your tricks now are much more advanced than the coffee shop tricks.
Yeah, but advanced 10 years. I'm like, oh, I'll use that trick or I won't make that mistake, or but it we had our tricks and
yeah. Well, and it's probably because you do a lot of destination work. You travel. I mean, do you still do a lot of like international stuff? Or are you mainly staying in the country now?
Yeah, no, we just got back from Hong Kong,
Okay.
which was pretty amazing. The couple actually lives in Hong Kong. Couple,
very cool.
I think 3 weeks we'll be in Paris.
Yeah.
Just took jobs in Turks and Caicos, Peru. Peru is actually a referral from my bride. She was actually in the bridal party 6 years ago when I did a wedding in Peru.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so she like kind of remembered me, and I was like, awesome,
Yeah.
let's go do it. But what I'm starting to see is that I have a referral base that's outside of the country now, which is really great. Like I have coordinators. I have a coordinator who actually really likes me in Greece.
Interesting.
So
Wow.
she kind of throws me something every now and then.
Yeah. Now, I mean, in moving the studio down, because you do so much destination work, I'd imagine that's much easier than basically like if you ran a portrait studio and like all your clients are local, moving a studio would kind of kill your business. You're essentially
Right.
starting all over again.
I mean, you can pretty much do wedding photography out of anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest with you, when I was in Santa Cruz, I booked, I think it was like 14 destination weddings in 1 year
That's crazy.
out of this small, tiny studio, like my home studio, out of Santa Cruz. And I was on the beach.
Wait. So let me stop you right there because I know everybody's going to ask this question.
How
are
do
you
you
booking
get
destination
destination
weddings?
out
Exactly.
of this thing? This was very early on in what was the internet, right? What I started to see was, okay, this was my take on the whole destination thing, was I started to, when I was shooting in venues that were similar to all of my competitors, I started to see like, oh my God, I shot in that same doorway. Oh my God, I shot in the same stairwell. Oh my God, I shot like in these same venues. So my images looked just like theirs.
Yeah.
I couldn't be better than they were because they already had their
shots.
referral base.
Yeah.
They had their shots,
Yeah.
So I was like, how can I step this up a little bit?
Yeah.
So what I started to do was I started to look on their websites, and everyone had this commonality where they said, available for travel worldwide. We'll travel internationally. I was like, oh, that's pretty interesting. And then, so I started to look on their galleries, and they didn't have it. So I was like, I
Interesting.
wonder who's doing that. So I typed in like Helsinki wedding photographer, and there was nobody there. It was like all these like random little bits. I thought, there's my opportunity. So I started to research Google, started to research how things were being optimized
On the SEO side,
on
basically.
the SEO side,
Yeah.
right? And I started pushing for that. So at the time, if you typed in like Spain wedding photographer, I was your guy.
Wow.
And
Even
like,
though you're based out of San Francisco.
Santa Cruz. You know what I
Santa
mean?
Cruz,
Like,
that's right.
yeah, but so I started getting these calls, and I got this call from this one gal. She was in New York City, and they were getting married in Spain. And she says, Gene, we'd like to hire you, but it was just about being like charming on the phone
Yeah.
and like talking. And I remember being in my buddy's house and like talking on the phone, and I booked this job. And I was like, oh my God, you're never going to believe this. I'm doing this engagement session in New York City, and then we're going out to Spain for the wedding.
That's rad, dude.
Unbelievable. Like, I'm still friends with them.
Yeah.
But that one wedding has led to weddings in the Dominican Republic, New York City. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So that, just having done that one wedding, like the referral base of all their friends, it almost seems like they're all trying to like outdo each other.
Yeah,
Like
and
a bigger, better, more
Oh, for sure, dude.
exotic destination wedding.
that's like, and
know?
it seems like once you get that first one in that destination, even if you can get just something, if you have a destination that you really want to do,
Yeah.
get something out there.
Get
Get
something,
something,
yeah.
and then go do it. Even if I would say, even if they just pay your travel expenses and you just go and do it, because then it seems
Absolutely.
like you can, at that point, you have something that you can work with SEO. You can say, okay, check out my images for this. I do destination weddings in Hawaii or whatever. By the way, don't pick Hawaii. It's probably the most saturated market in the world.
No,
but,
it's crazy, yeah.
but that's
But I mean, it's really cool. I mean, I read on SLR Lounge, you guys have these like amazing articles on how to do SEO.
SEO articles.
Right?
Uh-huh.
I mean, I thought, oh my God, why didn't I think about that? You know, I thought that's pretty amazing. But it's not that everyone wants to do destination weddings. I
Yeah.
mean, they are glamorous, but they are a ton of work.
They're a lot of work.
They're a ton of work.
Yeah.
You know, and I just feel like I'm working more so
Oh, you for sure
to
are.
get that one image.
Yeah.
But maybe not every photographer wants to do destination weddings. I mean, maybe the reason I did destination weddings was, of course, I wanted to travel. Of course, I wanted to get different types of images. But I did want to do something in my business that set me apart.
Mm-hmm.
And it does. Maybe not every photographer out there wants to do destination weddings. Maybe they want to be the person that's known for stylizing engagement sessions.
Yeah.
Maybe they want to be known for, I don't know, just amazing portraits or candids or anything like that.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that because we are the ones that don't really want to be in the destination side. We've done a few destination weddings, and it's mainly just for namesake. When we're selling a client, we can say, hey, we've been to this place, hey, we've been to that place.
Absolutely, right.
And it's really just for the reputation side. But 90% or 95% of our work is all local. And we want it to be that way because there's another flip side to destination weddings, which you touched on, which is basically the stress and work involved with it. Because you're essentially flying out to another place. There's typically rules on, like, we went to Mexico for a shoot, and we were stopped by customs because they said you could only bring in a certain amount of equipment.
You don't bring two cameras.
Two lenses or something like that, and then and that was it. And we're like, well, we have all this equipment now, and they luckily let us pass. But we learned kind of the hard way that every country has specific rules on photography. That it's difficult getting to and from. Like it's just a lot of time spent traveling, and then you're always working in uncomfortable situations and unfamiliar situations, and you probably thrive in that situation, and I think we do okay with that. But at the same time, I just feel more comfortable, like when I'm around an area like this.
You can make the same amount of money doing a wedding 10 minutes away.
If we can do it here, then we can do it here. And so I feel you when you say that not everybody's going to want to be into destinations because it's a ton of work. And,
it is.
But you get to see the world. There's the benefits of you get to see the world. You get to be around.
There's kind of that love-hate relationship with it.
Yeah.
But I mean, you do have to go out and you have to really understand what that country's all about.
Yeah.
I mean, we have to, before we even really think about speaking to someone, we have to understand what's going on in that country.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, we were in Thailand the day after there was a bombing. I mean, there's like a lot of things that could make you unsafe. I'm not saying that destination weddings are bad.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely it's really rewarding when you're out there photographing, like on the Chichen Itza pyramids or whatever. I mean, you're like, whoa, I get to do this, right?
No, it's an incredible job. But like you said, there's kind of, I think when people jump into it for the glamour side, they quickly realize that, hey, this isn't as glamorous as I thought it was.
Yeah. So definitely, I mean, be cautious if you're going to actually pursue this.
Yeah, try it out for sure.
Okay.
So so when you do destination stuff, and when you start out, you said you shot Hasselblad. So now, what are you shooting on now?
I'm kind of old gangster.
Yeah.
I'm shooting the old 5Ds.
Just the old 5D,
the old
regular,
5Ds.
the Mark 1s.
I'm not shooting 5D Mark 2s. I'm not shooting 5D Mark 3s. I'm gangster.
That's what I love about you, dude. This guy, just give him a camera. He doesn't care. Just give him a camera. He'll make your stuff look good. Like
I actually have all three of my cameras in the car right now. Actually, I leave here. I'm taking the Canon, get them all cleaned and refurbished.
Well, it's really refreshing to hear, to be honest, because there's so much talk about gear and pixel peeping and like all this stuff going on. And it's kind of getting people away from the actual side of, hey, good photographs are taken by the photographer and by knowing lighting and stuff, not by the camera.
Right. I mean, I study light more so than I study my equipment.
Yeah.
Granted, we do have nice equipment. We've been very fortunate to have these, tools to work with, but I study light a lot more. I like reading, light and business. I mean,
For sure.
Really like that.
Light and business.
Light and business.
You need to write a book on that, Light and Business. The Photographer's Guide to Life. I feel like I just like that, you're not constantly, 5D is a great camera, but you're not constantly like worrying about, do I have the latest and greatest type stuff? You're worried about, do I have the equipment that I need to take the photos that I want to take?
Take the photos that I want to take. I mean, I shoot with two cameras on me.
You do? You dual strap it?
I do the dual strap, and it looks like guns, but I wear it underneath my sports coat, so it's kind of,
oh, nice.
Underneath everything. But if I want to wish for anything, I just kind of jump on your website and I start to read about all the new cameras. I'm like, ooh, that's really nice, but I can't afford that.
Gene reads on SR Lab. That's awesome.
Of course I do. There's so much information. Absolutely.
So, okay, well, you mentioned you like to dual sling it. So let's talk about kind of shooting style. So you shoot two 5Ds. What are your lenses, like your go-to lenses that you're using?
Depends on the situation. Okay, if we're getting into getting ready. I walk into the room with a 50 millimeter. I'm very fortunate. I have a 50 1.0, which is my baby.
That's out of production, right?
It's out of production, and that's my go-to lens for the getting ready.
Yeah.
And I love shooting that lens. And I put a 24-70 on the other one, so I can get everything from wide to really shallow.
Gotcha.
If I'm shooting ceremony, 24-70 and a long lens, 70 to 200. If I'm on portraits, maybe an 85 millimeter and a, I don't know, 24-70.
Let's ask this: if you could take only one lens to shoot a wedding, what would it be?
24-70.
24-70.
24-70.
That's your safe call.
It is my safe call, but let me take that back. Maybe I would shoot my 50. It would force me to create more.
Yeah.
Right? It would
I would
force
think
me
you'd
to
have
move.
more. Yeah, your more creative abilities with the 50, especially your 1.0, dude. That's
right.
It's like I looked up prices on that thing. It's like $5,000 used.
Is that what they're going for now?
They're expensive lenses. Because
cool.
I was like, dude, I didn't know they made 1.0s. I'm gonna go look it up and check it out.
Well, I'll sell you mine for 4.
4.
No, maybe a 50 millimeter would be great.
50 would be awesome too. Yeah. 24-70 is great. It's just that's kind of like your safe lens, right? You can do pretty much whatever you need with that lens.
You can shoot the whole wedding on that one lens, right? I do see a lot of photographers using that 50 1.2, and they're beautiful.
Yeah, they're really
they're
nice shots.
really nice, sharp, beautiful shots. So maybe I'll just take their lead and go with the 50.
No, I'm with you, dude. I think if I had two, I'd definitely go with this 24-70 and the 50. Those are my two favorites. I'm known in the studio for just like staying on my 50 all day long. Like
really?
I just love the 50 and the way it looks. And
how come
I feel
you like the 50? Do you like the look of the photo?
I feel like I have a lot of range as far as I don't like to shoot everything super shallow.
Okay.
But I like the framing of it. Especially on a full frame, it gives me kind of like that right balance between like portrait length as well as like semi-wide. It's not a wide angle, but if I back up, I can still get a shot that covers everything. Right. And so that you add that in the creative abilities with the bokeh and stuff with the 1.2 aperture.
Yeah.
It kind of makes it my favorite. But there's certain times where I would say I definitely can't use that. In any grand entrance or any scene where you're like having to basically stay back a little bit, you don't want to be in their face with like a 50 walking back and being in everybody's shots and stuff
but you keep that 50 on you. You like that, baby.
But I like that. In prep, it's like the only, like during prep, 50 all the way. Just give me that one lens. So cool. Okay, so all you guys that want to know what Gene shoots with, what are his favorite lenses, you guys know now. We've talked about the gear.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about, you've become kind of a major influencer. You've been in the top. You were in the top 10 in the world, right? By Pop Photo, you were on the top wedding photographers of the.
Yeah, that's what they say.
So we all look to you for inspiration, but who do you look to for inspiration? And I think this is actually a question also from who mentioned this. Let's see.
Oh, that's
I want to give him credit for this. Ernie Castro.
That's
so he's
nice.
the one that asked.
Thanks, Ernesto.
Yeah. He asked, "What are some of your favorite photographers that have inspired you?"
Wow. You know whose photography I really love? Besides yours.
He had to say that because
No,
but seriously, who do you?
You know what? I like fashion a lot. But you know what? Where I get a lot of my visually, I like to look at is music videos.
Interesting.
I like music videos.
Yeah.
I don't know
There's
something
a lot of
about
artistry
it,
in music videos.
but pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
So I watch a lot of video, and I just like seeing how things are shot that way. So I have some of my favorite directors of photography that do movies and stuff. But watching movies, I like to see how the big dogs are doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like how the real guys are actually out there doing it. So I like to kind of incorporate that into the wedding world. But I'm pretty old school, and I also like looking back at like the old Monty Zucker stuff. I love his stuff, the Don Blair stuff. I like the classic stuff because I still actually shoot a lot of just classic portraiture because actually those are the ones that actually sell the most.
And classics never go out of style either.
Seriously, if you look around photos that people put in their house, they always got that one shot where they're like holding each other and looking right into the camera.
Yeah. It's always the standard portrait, like looking. And it makes sense though. If you had one shot to put on your desk at work and frame it and everything, I mean, which shot would you want? You'd want the shot where you can see everybody's faces and
It's the shot that hangs on our wall.
yeah, exactly.
You know, I mean, where we're actually looking at the camera and we actually look. I mean, I look semi-skinny. She looks great, but you know, it's the one shot that everyone does. So I always start pretty safe.
Yeah.
And then I go and play.
Move into the artistic stuff.
Yeah, but I do look at a lot of the old school stuff and just a lot of music videos.
Yeah.
You know, I do read the fashion magazines. We get the W, Vanity Fair.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all the cliche stuff.
There's a lot of incredible work out there to be found, especially if you can, and that's one thing that we always recommend to wedding photographers is look outside of your industry for inspiration. I mean,
True.
Hollywood is one of my favorite places because, like you said, these guys are at the top of their game. I mean, it's the place to go if you want to learn about lighting and
Absolutely.
angles and everything. Even if it doesn't matter if it's a video, just imagine it as a still. Like that's,
Or just taking one photo that you love and just trying to mimic it.
yeah, exactly.
You know, and trying to figure out that lighting setup or trying to figure it out. Because once you figure it out, then it's like a no-brainer to do it on the wedding day.
Yeah,
You know, you can do it on the fly. You know?
that's really cool. So Hollywood, fashion, that's a source of inspiration.
I hope that helps.
No, that helps a lot. And then let's say there's actually another really good question on here.
Okay.
There's a bunch of really good questions, guys. So let's see here. As far as for the gear guys out there, as
Okay.
far as like brand preference, do you have a brand preference like between Canon, Nikon, Hasselblad, or is it just you shoot with the tools that you have?
I've held a Nikon camera maybe twice.
Uh-huh.
I thought they were really amazing. I just happen to own Canon myself.
Yeah.
And no, I just happen to own Canon.
Yeah.
I mean, it's what I started off with. Besides the Hasselblad, my dad actually gave me that 35 millimeter Canon, so I just kind of stuck with that brand.
Yeah.
And it just kind of works for me.
Yeah, with a lot of it seems like, I mean, we all marry our gear because you buy so much accessories and lenses and stuff like
True,
that. And I
true.
don't think, I think people read into it a lot more than, you know, if I had everything Nikon, I'd be completely happy too. And right now I'm wishing I actually had the D800 because that camera's amazing. But we shoot Canon too, and it's just because that's kind of
what
we started
have.
with and what we have.
I'll tell you something really odd though, but I do use these like really cheap
Toy cameras?
No, these like Ungo flash receivers or transceivers.
Oh, yeah.
And I use these like for off-camera flash.
Uh-huh.
I use these like cheapy ones that I found on Amazon. They're like $30 fully manual flashes, and I put them on stands. And I put like 6 of them in a room,
And they work well?
and they work amazing.
Dude, we need to get that. Tell me afterwards. We'll post a link to that because that's something that we spend so much money on every year is flashes because we break them
Flashes.
constantly.
Yeah, I mean they're always going out, so I didn't think it was too smart of me to buy like $500 flashes
Yeah.
every time. So I could buy like 6 of these like cheapy flashes from Asia and then just put them up in the room and buy like Cowboy Studio light stands
Uh-huh.
and just throw them up all over the room.
And they hook up through like a PC sync or
Yeah,
how do you
they're
hook
just
them up?
on the hot shoe.
Oh, what are you using for the transceivers, the receivers, and
They're on the
radios.
hot shoe and they're on the camera, and so it goes into the hot shoe on top of the camera,
Uh-huh.
and then I'll put my Canon flash on top of there. I'll
oh, you're
just
using
use that.
Pocket Wizard or?
No, they're not. They're like Pocket Wizard, but they're called Uongos or
Oh,
something
I
like that.
thought you meant the flashes themselves. These aren't the flash units
They
either.
make the flash units as well.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah.
Wait, we got to get this.
I'll send you guys a link. Super dirt cheap,
All right.
and it's a down and dirty way to kind of like get rooms lit.
Yeah, I love
Because
that.
light is light.
I love that. You know,
It's just a matter of
totally.
controlling it, right?
When we use the old SB24s, SB26s for
Amazing,
Nikon,
right? Yeah.
but we break them all the time. So
Yeah.
it's like,
You're
and they're
using
getting
the Nikon flashes
for off camera.
That's
So
really smart.
And but we break them because we use Pocket Wizard, and Pocket Wizard has a really hard time with Canon.
Yeah.
The 580s put out way too much radio interference.
Yeah, too
They
much.
don't work well. Which is funny because they became the industry standard somehow. Pocket Wizards are like
Yeah.
industry standard, but they don't work with Canon stuff.
Yeah.
But so yeah, we use Pocket Wizards with these Nikons, but the Nikons are getting more and more difficult to find.
Mhm.
Pocket Wizards are rather pricey compared to
Right.
other receivers and stuff like that.
This
so.
is a great way for new photographers to kind of get in there and try backlighting, try
Yeah.
off-camera lighting, try and lighting things during the day.
Yeah, I
you
love
know?
that. I love that idea.
Yeah, no, I
great.
have to show you all
We're gonna
this stuff.
share that.
Oh, absolutely.
All right. So let's see. What else do we got here? Okay, this is a good question. This is from Primoz Kovac. I'm going to completely slaughter your name, dude. So I'm just going to say Primoz.
Primoz.
But what do you do when the weather doesn't cooperate, basically? What are you doing with lighting to kind of still create impressive photographs?
You know, really interesting enough, I had a bride come down from San Francisco that wanted to photograph in Los Angeles.
Uh-huh.
And she had rented a couple of dresses, and she said, Gene, they had booked their flights, their hotels, and all this stuff. And they said, Gene, okay, we're set to go. And I was like, I don't know if this is like such a smart idea because it's gonna like downpour.
Uh-huh.
And she's like, no, we have to do it. We have to go. We have to go for it. I was like, okay. So we went inside, and I shot inside.
Really?
And I found a bunch of hotels where I could shoot inside, and it actually worked out really great.
Oh, wow.
What I did to light the session was I didn't use off-camera flash because I didn't want to bother any of the guests.
Yeah.
But I used my my ID lights, my Lowell ID light.
The hot lights.
The hot lights. And I just put that on like a little grip, and I shined it. I had somebody shine it off to the side, and it lit them. And then of course we correct out the yellow afterwards.
Yeah.
But I mean, amazing, beautiful light.
That's awesome.
And just kind of having that plan B. I mean, we have weddings in the winter where we always have to have plan B, but when the weather started to clear up a little bit, they had this huge umbrella, and it became this amazing prop. So we actually went down to Beverly Hills, shot down a Rodeo Drive, and it became this really amazing prop. But luckily enough, since it had rained, the ground was all wet.
Yeah.
And have you ever noticed, like in movies, the grounds are always wet?
They do it intentionally. They
do
for
it
the
intentionally.
reflections and all that kind of stuff.
Reflections, and I don't know what it does, but it just worked out amazing. So kind of, I guess my answer to that question would be just kind of embrace what you have.
Yeah.
And don't second guess what you're doing. Just kind of embrace what you have, and just tell the client that you have it under control and use it to your advantage. If it's raining, of course it's gonna rain.
The shots are gonna look like it's raining.
It's gonna look like it's raining.
Yeah.
If it's raining on the wedding day, of course it's gonna rain. But you have reflections in water. You can put light behind them. You could actually light all those raindrops off.
Yeah.
Which would be
with
pretty
a backlight,
amazing.
Look incredible.
Be pretty incredible. Just hire someone that can actually sit in the rain for you.
Well, we had one of these comments recently. We posted an image that was shot on a cloudy day, and someone commented said something like, this is not a day for photographs.
It is.
And you're like, you know what? Like every day is a day for photographs.
It is.
Just learn to use your environment, and if it's cloudy that day, I mean, we're kind of in the industry where, as a wedding or portrait photographer, you're in the industry that you can't necessarily just switch up days to, if the weather isn't exactly what you want. If you
Things tend to build up, right?
Yeah, if you do fashion, or maybe if you do something else where you're doing editorials, it's a one-day shoot, maybe. And I say
it's
maybe.
more controlled, right?
Yeah, you have more control and being able to. But even then, if you got 30 production people going and shooting a location,
right,
and it's raining, you're not rescheduling 30 people to go do it. You're just going to do it. So it's making the best of these situations, and like you said, embracing it, because you can get, when it's a cloudy day, our off-camera lighting looks so much different than when it's a bright sunny day. You can make things look so great.
It's really interesting because the cloudy days are actually much more dramatic.
Yeah,
you
they
have
are.
all those
They
clouds, and you'll get like rays of light coming through the clouds. I mean, it actually works to your advantage.
It's actually my preferred time to shoot when there's like nice overcast. Not the kind of overcast I don't like is the foggy overcast where there's no definition in the clouds. Right. But if you have overcast and you can at least see definition,
right,
even if it's completely covering the sun, it makes for great photos. And if you can, like you said, shoot the rays coming through.
Are you guys using off-camera flashes?
Yeah, so we use a lot of off-camera light, and our main setup for basically every shoot that we go to is we do 2 off-camera flashes, 2 off-camera hot lights, and these are just everything that we take with us. Okay. We're not using them every shot.
Yeah.
But and then a reflector. So that's kind of our standard setup for a wedding or a portrait session.
Okay.
So just based on the situation, we're kind of deciding on what to use.
One of the coolest tools that I started to use was I have this 12-inch octagon softbox.
Oh, the mini ones?
The mini ones.
Yeah.
And you can find it on Amazon, and you just type in like small softbox octagon, and you'll definitely find it. You just find a little adapter, you put it on your speed light, and you get a little bracket, and you modify it to put it on your monopod. And you, of course, use the triggers, but it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, the light is so soft, and it spreads so nice, and you stay maybe 10 feet back. I mean, it's gorgeous.
Do you find you get enough power out of it?
Absolutely.
That's awesome. That's another great tip.
If you are using it like in the beach or during sunset, it's beautiful light. It looks almost natural.
That's really good.
It really kind of falls on you. Plus you get catch lights. Plus you get all that. I mean, it's just gorgeous.
one thing that we do a lot for a similar situation, but we lose a lot of light doing this, so it's not the best setup, but we always have a lighting assistant.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just take both flashes and I'll bounce them both into the reflector and then have
Smart.
just throw the reflector back at them. But you lose so much light, so it's only one of those things you can do like as we start losing light, because during the day you gotta go direct.
You gotta go direct and really fill in those shadows.
Yeah. Well, if we want to like kind of create dramatic, like underexposed kind of looks, we have to get something that can kind of and it takes like 2 to 3 pocket flashes to overpower the sun to get that dramatic, direct, kind of light. But
that's really harsh.
It's what we got. So that is really harsh, though.